Hello and welcome once again to the video. Now, with this weekend hosting the Dutch Grand Prix from Zandvoort, I thought I would make a list, as I've done with some other circuits, not all of them, but some of them, a list of the winners on all the Zandvoort Grand Prix, which is all the Dutch Grand Prix, because the Dutch Grand Prix has always been at Zandvoort. So let's dive in straight away. 34 Grand Prix in total, 36 if you include the two non-championship races in 1950 and 1951, both of which were won by Louis Rossier. But we're going to dive in with 1952. So I'm just going to put 52 there like that. And the winner was Ascari in his Ferrari, followed by in 53. Is that in focus? I like to think it is, but I don't know for certain. Okay, that is in focus. It's jumped a little bit for some reason, but anyway, it doesn't matter. So we're going to go Ascari again in his Ferrari, followed by 19. There was no Grand Prix in 1954 due to financial reasons apparently for the circuit. But we then had 55 was Fangio in his Mercedes, who held off a race-long battle with Stirling Moss. I don't know if Stirling Moss was his teammate that year. He was Fangio's teammate at Mercedes for at least 1 year. I can't remember if it was that year or not. 56 and 57, again no races due to financial issues. So now we go to 1958 and Stirling Moss gets his win this time in his Van Wall, the first British car to win a Grand Prix, the Van Wall. And then we had 1959, which was Joe Bonnier. He was he Swiss or Swedish? Trying to remember. Joe Bonnier. I think he might have been, I can't remember. He's either Swiss or Swedish, I know that. 1960, Jack Brabham, the Australian world champion, in a Cooper. Might be able to squeeze in down here. 1961 was Wolfgang von Trips. Tragically, he died later in the year, which allowed Phil Hill, his teammate, to win the Formula One Championship. I think it was the Italian Grand Prix that was the last race of the season that year. It was the last race of the season. Von Trips went into it ahead on points at the top of the table, but was killed in the race. Okay, moving swiftly on. So we have 1962 was Graham Hill. Graham Hill in his BRM. And then we had 63, Jim Clark in his Lotus, followed by 64, Jim Clark in his Lotus, followed by 65, Jim Clark in his Lotus. Clark won 25 Grand Prix in his career and 2 World Championships, all in a Lotus. 66 was Jack Brabham again. This time he was in a Brabham, his own team. 67 we went back to Clark in his Lotus again. And 60, was there one in 68? Yes, there was. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, there was. No gaps at the moment. 68 was Jackie Stewart in his Matra. Okay, so let's do a little bit of scrubbing out. We're up to 1968. Just sleep amongst yourselves while I'm doing this. Okay. Right. So let's go back on up here. I have to make sure the focus is good again, won't I? So 69 was Stewart again, and his Matra again. Now, focus. Is it going to jump when I do the focus? Okay, a little bit of a jump there, but it's not a disaster. So 1970 saw Jochen Rindt, who would of course die at the Italian Grand Prix. Just like Wolfgang von Trips in 61, but Rindt would actually would win the championship despite dying in practice for the Italian Grand Prix later in the season. Here's a Lotus now. 70. Oh, that was also a tragic race. I didn't know this, but well, I knew that Piers Courage was killed, as so many drivers were in the 70s. Didn't know specifically it was this race, the 1970 Dutch Grand Prix. But yeah, Piers Courage was killed in an accident in that race. I think it was in the race. 71, it's Jackie Ickx and his Ferrari. 70, there wasn't a race in 72 due to concerns over the track the facilities not being up to standard apparently. So there wasn't a race until 73. However, when that race took place, there was another disaster, and this one was a terrible one. It shouldn't have happened. Stewart in his Tyrrell won the race, but Roger Williamson, an English driver, or British at least, in only his second Grand Prix, had an accident. The car went upside down. David Purley, another British driver, who saw it happen, pulled up alongside, tried to get him out of the car, couldn't get Williamson out of the car. Apparently the race officials, who then saw it on TV, and drivers going past, all thought that the car that was on fire was David Purley's car, and that David Purley had got out, and he was just sort of stumbling out of the car. In actual fact, it wasn't Purley's car, it was Purley desperately trying to get Williamson out of his car. And the marshals, the nearby marshals, were not wearing flame-proof overalls, so they couldn't join in to try and get Williamson out. So it was just left to Purley on his own. Meanwhile, the race went ahead with no one, apart from the nearby officials, thinking that there was any problem. And the nearby officials couldn't just radio race control. So the race just went on as per normal. And Williamson died from asphyxiation due to all the noxious gases that he was consuming. He wasn't burnt, but he just died from asphyxiation. And David Purley was afterwards, who was awarded the George Medal, which is a big medal. I'd heard about this accident, but I didn't know that he had been awarded the George Medal for his conduct on that day, single-handedly trying in amongst all the flames. I think it's on TV. I think I've seen a YouTube clip of it, desperately trying to get Williamson out, and no one helping because the marshals couldn't join in, and because of their lack of flame-proof gear, and apparently one of the marshals apparently dropped a fire extinguisher and it rolled down a hill and they couldn't get it or something like that. It's a comedy of, well, not a comedy, but a series of errors. And as I say, the race just went on, drivers driving past thinking, oh, that's Purley, he's got out of his car, that's okay. Disaster. Anyway, that was the 1973 race. 1974 was Lauda in his Ferrari, followed in 1975 by Hunt in his Hesketh. The only race that Hesketh ever won, a sort of jokey team, basically. Well, not really a jokey team. I mean, they were a Formula One team, but a team like Hesketh wouldn't survive today. They were sort of in it for a laugh, Lord Hesketh, and it's incredible. They actually won a race, 1975 Dutch Grand Prix. It's their only win. It's James Hunt's first win. Let's go down to 1976, put that in here maybe. That was Hunt again, I think, benefiting from, and his McLaren, benefiting from Lauda not taking part due to his big accident at the Nürburgring. 77 was Lauda in his Ferrari. 78 was Andretti in his Lotus. Where are we now? 79 was Jones in his Williams. Alan Jones would go on to win the championship the following year. Piquet, 1980 in his Brabham. 81 was Prost in his Renault, wasn't it? Yeah, Renault. 82 was Pironi, Didier Pironi, in his last year in Formula One due to his big accident later in the year. And nearly won the championship that year. Would have won the championship had he not had, well, would probably have won the championship had he not had his big accident. And 83 was Arnoux, also in a Ferrari. Okay. So we're up to and including 83 at the moment. Not many races left due to the big gap. 1985 was the last Dutch Grand Prix for a while. It stopped due to financial issues yet again. Came back, was supposed to come back in 2020, but the pandemic stopped that happening, so it came back in 2021. So we shoot on back up here for 1984. Is this going to jump again? It keeps jumping, doesn't it? 84, which was Prost in his McLaren. Followed by the only one that I actually remember, and that's the 85. I think that's it's jumped again. Keeps jumping, so naughty. The 85 one, I remember the dusty Zandvoort Circuit, and it was Lauda in his McLaren. It was his last Grand Prix win. I think it was his only win that year. Very lackluster final year Lauda had in 1985. Just as the following year, Keke Rosberg had a very lackluster final year in Formula One. They just went off the boil in their last years. So Lauda retired at the end of 85 and Rosberg retired at the end of 86. I don't think it had anything to do with Prost being better or anything like that, because I don't think Prost was better than Lauda or Rosberg. I think they just run out of energy, basically. Right, so then we went all the way to 2021. And of course, now we've got a triple header, as usual. 21, 22, 23. We got Verstappen in the Red Bull. 22. Verstappen in the Red Bull. 23. Verstappen in the Red Bull. 24, Norris with a very comfortable win. Everything went right in that race, no issues. He won by 22 seconds over Verstappen and his McLaren. So 2025, question mark, question mark, question mark, one in the middle too. Let's just put up here who won the most races. So we have Clark. He won 4 races. And then there's just 3 on 3. Stewart with 3. Lauda with 3. And Verstappen, of course, as ever, with 3. And teams. Oh, has that gone off the side there? Look, it has. Never mind. Trust me, that's his 3. It does say 3, I can assure you. And Ferrari won 8 races. Lotus won 6. McLaren won 4. Okay, so there you go. Just a little rundown there of the Dutch Grand Prix winners. 1950 to 2024, with a number of gaps in between, especially a very big one between nothing between 86 and 2020. Okay, done. Sort of. Still needs cleaning a little bit. Okay, so thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to subscribe, please do so, or like the video, or comment on the video, or leave a tip on the thanks button below the video. But most importantly, thank you for watching, and make sure you enjoy the race, which should be tomorrow when you're watching this video. Thank you, and goodbye for now.